To wrap up day 2 of LULAC's virtual summit, we take a look at COVID-19 and examine the overall safety and efficacy of vaccines with different types of variants, including the new COVID-19 Delta variant. To spotlight health access and equity for Latinos and communities of color, please welcome Secretary Xavier Becerra from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Let me begin by thanking mis hermanas y hermanos de LULAC, National President Domingo Garcia, CEO Cindy Benavides, LULAC board members, and of course, every member and supporter of LULAC. Thank you for your essential work in our communities. From my days in Congress to my time as Attorney General in California, I've partnered with LULAC on so many critical issues over the years. Immigration, voting rights, pay equity, affordable health care, you name it, we stood side by side. We have the same scars. So thank you for your fight and for your partnership. Somos socios. Socios, that's a special word for me. In these extraordinary times, we need extraordinary partnerships. That's why I wanted to be with you today, because we need our communities to come together in this time of pandemic and fight back. For the past 18 months, COVID-19 has breached our neighborhoods. It has infected and killed Latinos at twice the rate of our white brothers and sisters. And it has disproportionately killed us in the prime of our lives. The numbers are heartbreaking, but it's not just the numbers. It's the absence of a loved one at the dinner table, the loss of the chance to even say goodbye. That's what hurts. This pandemic has robbed our community of both lives and livelihoods, with millions losing their jobs, health care, and economic security. From the very beginnings of this crisis, our community has worked on the front lines as essential workers, fighting to keep people safe, families fed, and our country alive. All at great risk to our own health, and often while living on the margins and in the shadows. Now more than ever, as we seek to return to everyday life, it's critical that we say loud and clear to our parents, to our children, to our comadres, our socios, the time is now to get vaccinated. We must beat this virus. You are trusted leaders. I need you, again, in this fight. We must get to every town, every neighborhood in this nation. Since President Biden took office, we've made a lot of progress against the pandemic, and we're in a very different place today. Well, today, some 170 million people, including 80% of seniors and close to 17 million Latinos in our country, are fully vaccinated. But now, it's more than just COVID. Now it's Delta. It moves faster and farther. It spreads more than twice as easily. It went from 1% of cases in May to the vast majority today. What's more, communities of color, both brown and black, have received smaller shares of vaccines compared to our share of cases and, sadly, fatalities. But here's the good news. We can stop this variant. We have enough supply of highly effective vaccines to vaccinate everyone. And we are putting in the work and the resources to get shots in arms, especially across underserved communities and communities of color. President Biden has made it a priority to vaccinate everyone, regardless of income, zip code, or status. We want to reach you where you are, and we want you to have the facts. We've invested over $7 billion in community health centers in the fight against COVID-19. They've administered nearly 14 million vaccines, with over 2/3 administered to racial and ethnic minority patients. We've launched the COVID-19 Community Corps, a grassroots network of 13,000 local trusted community leaders, including LULAC, to be the voice of vaccination. And in the last couple of months, we've provided nearly $250 million to support trusted community-based initiatives to increase vaccinations in underserved communities. From the fields of Salinas to the streets of El Paso to the suburbs of Lawrence, Massachusetts. I've met with parents, teens, farm workers, healthcare workers, and many, many more. Folks who are helping spread the word about the safety and efficacy of vaccines. Hermanas, hermanos, vaccines work. Vaccines save lives. And vaccines are our lifeline to better days. Tell your family and your friends that you want to see them at the dinner table tonight. Tell them we must get vaccinated. I remember as a small child when my father's working buddy would come over to visit. He'd always ask, ¿Dónde está mi socio? So when my mother would ask me, who's at the door? I would say, not knowing what it really meant, es mi socio. To LULAC and each and every one of you, once again, my ask is simple. Be my socio. Take this message to your communities and save lives. Let's partner once again para la salud y el futuro de nuestra comunidad. Gracias.
Vacunas para protegernos del COVID-19. Ellas traen esperanza para acabar la pandemia, pero solo si están disponibles para todos y si colaboramos unos con otros.
La terrible pandemia del coronavirus ha causado enfermedad, muerte y sufrimiento al mundo entero. Que Dios nos conceda la gracia de afrontarla con la fuerza de la fe, asegurando que las vacunas estén disponibles para todos, para que todos podamos vacunarnos.
A medida que preparamos un futuro mejor como comunidad global interconectada, queremos brindar esperanza a todos sin exclusión. Del norte al sur de América, apoyamos la vacunación para todos.
Aún tenemos mucho por aprender sobre este virus. Pero una cosa es segura, las vacunas autorizadas funcionan y están aquí para salvar vidas. Son clave para um caminho de sanação personal e universal.
Os esforços heróicos dos profissionais da saúde nos proporcionaram vacinas seguras e eficazes para proteger toda a família humana. Vacinar-se é uma opção de amor a todos, principalmente aos mais vulneráveis.
La vacunación nos ayuda a proteger a los más indefensos. Nuestra decisión de vacunarnos afecta a otros. Es una responsabilidad moral, un acto de amor para toda la comunidad.
Estamos unidos norte, centro y sur de América Latina y el Caribe para promover y apoyar la vacunación de todos y todas. Les animo a actuar responsablemente como miembros de la gran familia humana, procurando y protegiendo nuestra salud integral y la vacunación universal.
Vacunarse con vacunas autorizadas por las autoridades competentes es un acto de amor. Y ayudar a que la mayoría de la gente lo haga es un acto de amor. Amor a uno mismo, amor a los familiares y amigos, amor a todos los pueblos. El amor es también social y político. Hay amor social y amor político. Es universal, siempre desbordante de pequeños gestos de caridad personal capaces de transformar y mejorar las sociedades. Vacunarse es un modo sencillo pero profundo de promover el bien común y de cuidarnos unos a otros, especialmente los más vulnerables. Le pido a Dios para que cada uno pueda aportar su pequeño grano de arena, su pequeño gesto de amor. Por más pequeño que sea, el amor siempre es grande. Aportar esos pequeños gestos para un futuro mejor. Que Dios lo bendiga y muchas gracias.
Buenas tardes, soy María Cardona, and I want to thank LULAC for letting us participate in this annual summit, this virtual summit this time around, so that we can all focus on the issues that are so important to the Latino community, particularly this pandemic. And I am so thrilled to be able to share with you all a conversation that I'm going to be having with Dr. Mario Molina. But first, I would like to thank Secretary Becerra for his really important message. And I'd like to link it with the incredibly compelling message that we just heard from His Holiness Pope Francis and the 6 cardinals and archbishops from Latin America and from Central America. Their message and Secretary Becerra's message were really one. They all talked about how important partnerships were. The partnerships with LULAC, the partnerships we have in our community, the partnerships we have around the country to make sure that we keep our Latino community informed and educated so that they are able to take that important step of getting vaccinated. Secretary Becerra also talked about socios, and the Pope and the Cardinals demonstrated how they are acting as socios to the global community. And they shared a message about how vaccinations mean an act of love, an act of hope, and an act of unity. And they also talked about how we need to continue to do more to make sure that our Latino community continues to get vaccinated and continues to keep all of us safe. And in order to do that, I am thrilled to have this conversation with Dr. Mario Molina so that we can do our part in maintaining the facts and the information and helping our Latino community to be educated and to be as informed as they can so that they can take that important step to get vaccinated. So I want to welcome you, Dr. Molina. You have been a part of this ongoing campaign that we have been doing with LULAC and with the Ad Council, as well as the COVID Collaborative. And I want to thank them for everything they're doing. But I want to thank you, Dr. Molina, because you have been part and parcel of this campaign from the very beginning. So thank you for your efforts. And I really just want to dive into the conversation. What was the most compelling part of both Secretary Becerra's message as well as the message from Pope Francis and the cardinals and the archbishops?
For me, the compelling part of all of this is the fact that we are all partners in this. The Catholic Church, the popes, the cardinals, the federal government, LULAC, all coming together, fighting this terrible virus that's killing our people. And at the same time, we have an effective vaccine that, as you heard, is effective, and it offers hope to our people. And I think that, as the Pope said, becoming vaccinated is an act of love. You're doing this for your families and for your community.
Dr. Molina, I want to touch upon some of the issues that have been going around in our community, some of the misinformation and disinformation that has really run rampant. I'm going to ask you directly, do these vaccines cause any kind of infertility, or do they pose any danger to an unborn child if I were pregnant?
Well, thank you for asking, because that is something that is very personal and important to me. I have a 2-month-old grandson who was born after my daughter was vaccinated. Oh. So I can tell you from my own personal experience that the vaccines are safe for pregnant women, that they don't cause infertility, and that they don't harm babies. And I think that, the Pope would never recommend anything that was in any way dangerous for pregnant women or for children. So I think women can be very confident that the vaccine will not impair their ability to become pregnant. It won't interfere with their pregnancies, and they can deliver healthy babies after they've been vaccinated.
Let me ask you another question that I have heard asked by women who are either pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant and are concerned. What about if you have just had your child and you are nursing that child? Will the vaccination impede you to continue nursing? Will it be harmful for the baby in any way?
Again, I can speak from personal experience because my grandson is being breastfed, and it has not interfered with my daughter's ability to take care of her child. In fact, it offers some protection to the baby because the antibodies that the mother has are transferred to the baby through the milk. So not only does it not interfere, but it actually helps protect infants.
Wow, that is such an important point to make. Thank you for making that, Dr. Molina. Let's move on to some other issues that have come up in very recent days. We just heard that the FDA gave approval to the Pfizer vaccine. What does that mean, Dr. Molina, for everyday people? And does that mean that prior to this approval, these vaccines had not been approved, and should we have been concerned?
The formal approval of a vaccine is more a formality than of real importance. The important thing was the FDA authorization, because at that point, the FDA said the vaccines are safe and effective and can be used. Normally, we wait about 2 years from the time that a vaccine is introduced for the formal approval. But that's really to make sure that they are safe. These vaccines have been administered to so many people, far more than what we typically do in a normal approval process, that we can be very confident that these are among the safest vaccines ever developed. I think when we look back on this in the future, we will say that the COVID-19 vaccine was among the safest vaccines ever.
And should we expect for approval of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson to be coming up soon?
Well, I know that the Moderna people have asked for formal approval. I'm sure they will receive it. And the same is going to be true for Johnson & Johnson. The real issue now is that we need to get everyone vaccinated. And I'm hoping that the FDA will move quickly to approve the vaccines for children as well. We already have preliminary studies showing that the vaccine is safe and effective in children, but we want that final go ahead so that we can give it to all children.
We already have heard from folks who have said before there was FDA approval that they are waiting for FDA approval, which leads many people to believe, okay, now that there is FDA approval, there is going to be rampant numbers of people going to get vaccinated, which would be great. But I suspect that we should not let our guard down because there will still be people that will be hesitant. What is your thought on that?
I think many people that were hesitant before will continue to be hesitant. The vaccine has been safe. It's been widely used for a long time. The final approval is a formality. It doesn't really change anything. And I think that it was really important, the words of the Pope, that getting vaccinated is an act of love. Do this for your friends, do this for your family, do this for the people that you love so that you protect yourself, but you also break the chain of spread of the virus to others who might not be as healthy as you are and might suffer terrible consequences from an infection. You know, we are fighting a war. It's a war against an invisible enemy. And the only way we're going to win this war is through partnerships to get everyone vaccinated. We don't have a treatment for COVID-19. The medications we have offer a little bit of value, but the real way to fight this virus is to get vaccinated and stop the spread.
I'm so glad you mentioned that there is no cure. One of the most insidious pieces of news that I have seen going around lately, Dr. Molina, that I would love for you to address head on, is how some people are choosing to take horse dewormer medicine instead of the vaccine. What are your thoughts on that?
There have been a host of these hoped for treatments. Hydroxychloroquine was one of the first. Ivermectin, the drug that you just mentioned, showed some activity in the test tube, but at levels far higher than can ever be achieved in the human body. There is no cure. And people that are chasing these drugs potentially are harming themselves. And by not getting vaccinated, they're allowing the virus to continue to spread, oftentimes to innocent children who can't protect themselves. The best thing that you or anyone can do is to get the vaccine. It's safe, it's effective, and it can help prevent the infection. And even in those who are vaccinated and get sick, we know that they are very unlikely, about 12 times less likely to be hospitalized than people that are not vaccinated.
This Delta variant that we are now seeing is the dominant version of COVID-19. How is that different from the original virus? And you had mentioned in one of our previous talks during this campaign, Dr. Molina, you made the comparison between COVID-19's infectiousness and that of the common cold when some of our leaders were comparing it to the common cold. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, COVID-19 is in the family of viruses that in the past were causes of the common cold. About 20% of the common colds are caused by COVID, but this is a different kind of COVID. And in a matter of a few weeks, the Delta variant has taken over from the original strain to where now the more than 90% of cases are caused by the Delta variant. The reason is that it is much more infectious. And the reason for that is that the Delta virus binds more tightly to cells. In order to infect the cell, the virus has to bind to a receptor through the spike protein. And the binding is so tight that the virus gets internalized into the cells. If it's not tight, the virus will fall off and there's no infection. So this is why the Delta variant is so much more infectious. It's not more deadly, but many more people are being infected and it's spreading much more quickly. This is like a wildfire that is going through the unvaccinated portion of our country. And right now, only about 55% of Americans are fully vaccinated, which means almost half the country is without protection.
And talk to us about booster shots. And they are saying that now everyone who's gotten vaccinated will probably need a booster shot at some point in time.
Well, that's not surprising. If you think about common things like tetanus, every 10 years we have to get a booster shot for tetanus. Your immunity decreases over time. And immunity is not black and white. It's not on or off. It's a whole gray scale, a spectrum of immunity. And so as it begins to wane, you need a booster to remind your body to be prepared. So I'm not surprised that we will need boosters. Exactly when and how those boosters are going to be administered is still a little bit up in the air. But the president has recommended that we get booster shots probably, 8 to 10 months after the initial shot. And this will especially be important to older patients, people over the age of 50, people over the age of 60, and to people on the front lines, healthcare workers and essential workers who are among the first to be vaccinated. So the people who are first in for the vaccine will also need to be first in for the booster shot.
Dr. Molina, unfortunately, our time is running out. I want to give you the chance to either address something that we have not addressed here that you think is important, or to underscore something that we have addressed here because it is incredibly important.
Everyone's tired. This latest wave of the recurrence of COVID is not something we were prepared for. We thought this thing was going to go away. It's not. It's going to be with us for a while. So just to reinforce, what the Pope said, people need hope. And the only real hope we have is the vaccine. We're all one family. We are all in this together. And the best thing that you can do as an act of love is to become vaccinated and to encourage the people that you love, your friends, your family, to get the vaccine too. It's important and it's our best hope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Molina, for that compelling message and for all of the amazing and incredibly important information that you've shared with us today. I want to thank LULAC. I'd like to thank the Ad Council and COVID Collaborative for supporting this unprecedented campaign to keep our Latino community informed and educated. They have a website called detidepende.org, or in English, it's getvaccineanswers.org. Muchísimas gracias, LULAC, for everything that you do each and every single day. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.